What's happening, you guys? Alright, today is the 15th of August. This will be a bit of a shorter one here. Actually, I got asked the question by one of the guys I actually recruited at JCT, or at least got recruiting credit for. We were talking on Facebook today. He was curious about my equipment and video editing and production process. And, you know, honestly, I get asked about the equipment pretty often. So I'm going to do a video just for that. So you guys who do watch and are really curious can, I'll have this, I can give you a more thorough, I guess, video dedicated just to that. I'll probably have to do one video just for what's the equipment and why I have 3 different systems on here and whatnot. And then I'll probably do a separate video for how I do my editing process, because I have found that I've tried more than one video editing software, and there's one particular that I'm especially fond of, even though it can be a bit buggy for me at times. But that said, though, I'm gonna let's at least talk about the equipment for you first. All right, so. Simple answer here first is what is this equipment I'm using? So first I have my front camera that faces outside. That would be the Eagle Eye 4. I got that one through Falcon Electronics. It is a 3 camera with an optional 4th camera system. It does have side cameras. I don't currently use those the side cameras on it right now. I have them available to use. I just don't have them hooked up or mounted. But I have one sitting right here. I can show you. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail on this too. Why I'm not using these right now. But this is what the side camera on the Falcon, on the Eagle Eye 4 system looks like. Kind of short. It's not such a great hookup right here. It does tend to be a little bit on the temperamental side. There are times where it'll stop recording and then I don't get any camera footage, and I have to I don't record the front camera but not the rears until I basically power down and power back up the entire camera system when that does happen. So it could be a better connection set up there on that. I'm going to also go over, there's some other pros and cons to that system versus the other system I'm going to tell you about, which is the one with that I'm currently using for my side cameras, and that would be the VSYSTO V7. VSYSTO V7 I had purchased through what was it, Amazon, I think. I was just doing a Google for like 3 or 4 camera truck friendly systems, and I was having a hard time finding the system that was just what I wanted. Like a lot of what I was finding, the 3rd camera was intended to go go on the back of the vehicle or something, but the cords on those are never more than usually about 40 feet, so it's meant for RVs and street vans and stuff, not really meant for semi with 53-foot trailer. Better be careful there, dude. Alright, this guy was trying to back into one of those other spots there up against the building here. I'm in Oak Grove, Missouri right now at the Petro, and this guy had a bad setup. Anyway. Okay, so because of the temperamental problems with the side cameras on the Eagle Eye, I bought the VSYSTO in search of a good alternative to use whenever I'd have problems with the Eagle Eye. But I found out the hard way by also not reading clearly enough on the advertisement on the VSYSTO's product page, that it only records 2 cameras at a time. It's a 4-camera system. It has a front and a rear. It's just like I was talking about, where it has like a 40-foot cable that'll get you to the back of the vehicle. But again, when I pull a 53-foot trailer, and I never have the same trailer more than, I think the longest I've ever had is the same trailer with JCT. It was about five trips in a row. That's it. Most of the time I have the same trailer for 1 or 2 trips before I'm dropping it and going to something else. So that's useless to me. And what's also useless to me is a camera or side cameras that don't record 24/7. So I bought that system thinking that I could use the front and sides all simultaneously. It'd be hunky-dory there. Well, then I found out the hard way it doesn't work that way. It only records either the front and rear cameras together, or it records the left and right cameras together. That's it. And let's say if I switch from front to left, the front and left files go into the same folder, and then the rear and right files both go into the right side folder, or rear folder, I mean. So anyway, and that was another thing I got asked, was how do I basically make the data editable? Okay, so all of these cameras, okay, also the one I'm, before I get there, let's talk about the camera I'm looking at right now talking to you through, and that would be my Garmin 45. That is my old go-to dash cam that I bought at a Love's truck stop with rewards points a long time ago. I think back when I was ordering a Walmart dedicated, actually, I had stopped at the Love's in Las Cruces and was in need of a replacement camera at the time, and I had the rewards points, so I just went ahead and, you know, burned about $180 in rewards points or whatever it was on this camera here. Okay, well, this used to be my go-to camera, but it's got its pros and cons as well. Which again, I'll kind of talk about that part here now. Now, the Garmin 45, which I'm looking through, talking to you on right now, it did pretty well, I would say, decently well on the daytime performance. But you can't really tweak its settings either, but it was fine. I don't normally touch the any of the settings anyway on the other cameras, which I'm going to get to in a second here, or eventually. But yeah, daytime I had a nice wide view, and and it did just fine for me during daytime, but nighttime was horrendous. I could be like in a rural area at night, like say new moon conditions, and you could barely even see the road with the camera. I could see just fine. I could see the lines, the lane stripes and all that kind of stuff with my eyes. The camera could not pick them up. It just did not work well with low light conditions like that. So that was another case where I needed an alternative solution to this problem. So that's where I eventually bought actually before the Eagle Eye, I had a different one, a Pinnacle 4, I think is what it was called. Yeah, it was also through a Falcon Electronics. It was a 2-camera system though. And the reason I bought that one originally was because it had a front and 1 side camera. And my idea for it was just do backing videos, because that's where a lot of people come to my channel for, is they see that, that double blindside backing video, and might tend to take an interest in my my backing content. So I do that. Don't try to turn into here. Do not try to turn into here with where you're positioned. You will hit me. Alright, good idea. This guy looked like he was getting ready to turn into here. He wanted to pull through, but then he found out the hard way that other guy had already come in, done the same thing. Okay. So again, I'm looking for alternative, something that'll work at night. The Pinnacle 4 got the job done. It had really good nighttime visibility, or quality, I would say. But it only had 1 side camera, and so it was great for doing left turns and side backings, but There were times that I had to do it, maybe a blindside backing, or had right turns that that I needed to make, that I wanted to get covered. Ouch. I don't know. So some of you guys, I'm sure are familiar with Riding with Dave, his channel, and how he's had a tendency in that. I don't know if he still does it now. I haven't seen it in a bit. I don't watch all of his videos, but I watch a fair amount of his, I guess. But no, don't think I'm copying him. I've actually had these cameras in use since before he even got a CDL. So it's just, difference in how I'm using mine. He was always using a GoPro that was battery operated and mounted to his passenger side door. I mean, door mirror mount, whatever. And he calls it his turn cam. Well, I have, with this Eagle Eye system, I had cameras on both mirrors that could get both sides, and they get their power from the main camera, so I don't ever have to worry about the battery dying on them. All I have to do is just turn off the camera, pull the SD cards, put them in my tablet, transfer the files over, and which we'll talk about some more on that as well. That's kind of how I do my transfer process. But since we're talking about the camera equipment first, how do I get it from the camera to the device? Right now would be a good time to talk about that. A lot of people want to know about, well, can't you use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something? Okay, well, Bluetooth is very slow as far as bandwidth goes. If I was just moving just like single files, like, maybe there was some kind of thing of interest that I saved the data from, then I could always do it that way. But there's even then I still have to go through the camera's interface to do that, or they might have an app as well on that I can use on the phone to do that kind of stuff, depending on the equipment. But it's still a bit cumbersome. I find it a lot easier when I want to pull the footage, especially with the amount of footage I do, like this last one that I just did. Now this delivery video I did in Moberly, where I talked about the 99-cent program at Hirschbach versus the FSC, or fuel surcharge program, at JCT. So that was probably at least a good hour of footage, just even getting from the Loves in Boonville, Missouri, which is about an hour drive from here, to Moberly. And then it didn't even include what it took while I was on their property, or a little bit of stuff I did after I left their property before ending that video. So that's a lot of files to cover. Let's see. This camera here, the interior, it doesn't take a hell of a lot of space for all that footage. I would say, I don't know, probably, we'll just say somewhere in the vicinity of like 6 or 7 gigabytes of data, normally on something like that. And normally on, on a smaller video that maybe is in total about 40, 50 or so minutes of footage, but not all of it actually ends up in the video. Then I might be talking about, 5 or 6 gigs or something along that line of total data to retrieve. That's a lot. And that's a lot to ask for Bluetooth. But honestly, Bluetooth is more well suited for input devices, not for file transfer. And by input devices, I mean keyboards and mice and stuff like that. That's what Bluetooth is more ideally suited for. Or, even audio with like headsets and stuff like that. Video, it's just too much data for it to handle. And then Wi-Fi, I can do that too, but I'd have to hotspot off my phone to get it, because I don't have any kind of Wi-Fi connectivity here on my truck. I don't have like a Wi-Fi, like a cellular to Wi-Fi adapter router thing, or whatever you can use in a truck for that purpose. So, or maybe even a jetpack. I used to have a jetpack actually with Verizon, but it was not ideal, again, because you can only do so much data transfer on hotspot before they throttle your connection speed. I'm not interested in that. So, and now with these SD card setups, all I have to do is pull the SD card, put it in there, transfer the files from the SD card that I want. The files that I want from each respective SD card. And then there's even a process with that I use now to minimize how much data actually goes to the tablet. And even then, I got a brand new tablet that has a lot more space to work with now, so I have even more options on that. So but I'll get into that topic as well on when I do the other video on the video projection process. Whatever the case, yeah, SD card, it can transfer the data. If I do direct SD card straight into the SD card slot on my tablet, the files transfer way faster. I can transfer several gigabytes, not dozens of gigabytes, but several gigabytes from the SD card to the tablet directly through that, and within maybe a couple minutes, somewhere around there, maybe about 2 minutes or so, and it's all done. If I were to do that on Wi-Fi or on Bluetooth, it would take probably at least a good hour just to get one SD card transferred. And I have three SD cards to work with on any normal video, and then on top of that, actually I have a fourth, because sometimes you see me do show and tells with my phone, and even when I'm not doing show and tells with my phone, I'm also on that map view that I use that you see, I'm using this. I screen record on my phone with map view, and then I have to synchronize all the stuff once it's all together on my video editing software. And again, we'll get to all that part when I do the video specifically on that process. All right, but we'll close this one by at least kind of showing you. I'm going to use this phone, kind of show you what some of the what the equipment looks like, and also how it's mounted. Now, what the pros and cons of each are. So I already talked about the Garmin 45. Speaking of another pro and con, pro with this Garmin that I'm talking to you on, the audio quality on it is way better than the other two cameras here. So I know a lot of drivers would be apprehensive about having interior camera facing them, and that's another question I sometimes get: whose camera am I working with? Is this the company's camera or is it mine? No, this is my personal camera. JCT does have the Smart Drive dash cam system in our trucks, but it only faces forward. Although I understand, if something comes up, they can use, I don't know how, but they can like look through the mirrors and then even reflections off the windshield and stuff or whatever to I guess to see stuff going on to an extent inside the truck to a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what the capability is on that, but something along that line they can figure out just by how stuff reflects off the windows. Alright, anyway though, so this camera, great for audio quality. I love it. You can even watch some of my videos where I'll talk about, I can show you what the audio is on, let's say, on one camera versus another. Maybe that kind of helps save time on, because I won't have to grab SD card footage out of these cameras that I'm using right now, or that's recording right now. Maybe the next pickup video I do, I can do that kind of a demonstration. This is what the audio sounds like on this camera. This is what the audio sounds like on that camera. And this is what the audio sounds like on the other, on this one, whatever. So you can see how they all differ. But speaking of, they also have different sensitivity levels on the exterior cameras. Also, both the exteriors, I have different settings I can play with. Alright, so this is my Eagle Eye 4 right here. It's just mounted, it's suction mounted to my windshield. Sometimes it does have it's been known to fall off, but generally it holds pretty damn well. Once in a blue moon it'll fall off, and then once it does fall off, I might have a problem getting it to hook back to stick again and stay on. But maybe just a little bit of spit on the other side of it, maybe even heating up the rubber plunger thing a little bit. Sometimes is all it takes to get it to stick long enough where it'll set and then stay in place So I got my windshield replaced, last month? And this has been on there the entire time. It hasn't fallen off even one time. Speaking of windshield, this is why I did not want to replace the windshield. Brand new windshield, and it's already cracked again. And this one is actually even more questionable than the previous windshield that they wouldn't sign off. Anyway, that's another can of worms. But, alright, the interface, it's not touchscreen. There are different controls on here. Actually, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to hit that bottom left one and it'll stop recording. You can see right there, I don't know, I can't tell if it's, you should see a red flashing light. I can't tell if the camera is able to, there it is, okay. Okay, if it's flashing red, that means it's recording. And then also right there in the top left, that also is an indication that it's recording. So there's stuff I can do while it's recording, and there's stuff that I need the camera to not be recording for to do other stuff. So I'm hitting this bottom left button, that stops it from recording. Now I have menus in here, so I'll just show you right there. The middle menu, the middle button there pulls up the menu, and then I'll just kind of go through the different settings so you can see what's possible. Resolution, light recording, HDR, I forget what that is. I'm going to hit this button here to, HDR is on, I don't remember, high def or something, I can't even remember what that's for. Exposure, so if I want to get different, maybe have it adjust on its, inherently adjust to different light conditions, like say if I'm not getting enough light, I can always increase the setting on this to a positive number. Or if I feel like I'm getting too much light, I can always decrease it. That's what that is. Okay, so, and I can't do that with the Garmin 45. What's this one? Motion detecting. I use that, I keep that turned off because I record 24/7 on all my cameras. Record audio, obviously I want that recorded. That's definitely essential for me with the synchronization process, which I'll get to in the production video as well. Alright, date stamp. It just wants to know if you want the date stamp down here in the bottom to show up in the video, and yes, I do like that. It's not, you're not setting the date and time there, but you're just telling it whether to show the date stamp and other stuff. Alright, G sensor is a G-force sensor. Basically, if you have if you have an impact of any kind, but that could even include potholes and stuff, that could trigger it to automatically record and save, automatically save whatever section of data is recording at the time. Alright, next section down, a resolution. Now, so I have a few different settings here. So I can do 1920 by 1080, which is basically 1080p. Or I can do a 720p setup here. Or VGA, 640 by 480. That's like standard def, basically. Now, it doesn't show the option for when for the side cameras right now because I don't have the side cameras hooked up. However, if I did have them hooked up, there would be more options available. But now with the, okay, this being the camera there, that, you know, that's part of this system here. If I were to hook it up, yeah, I would show you the setup there. But yeah, right here in this same screen there would be other resolution options, but generally these cameras here only record in 720p, while the main camera records 1080. Now that Pinnacle 4 I talked about before that I used to have, that actually records in 4K on the front camera, but it only does 1080p when you have the side camera recording as well. And the side camera on that one I think was 1080, but I could be wrong. Alright, we'll come back into, oops, come back. Okay, loop recording, and tell it how long I want the video clips to be. So, yeah, it could be 3, 5, or 10 minutes. I tend to like 3 minutes. I don't want them to be too long because if I have, I break my videos up into different scenes. And sometimes, yeah, so there's that. I want them to be as long as possible, but if I'm typically, there are a lot of times where I'm outside the truck for no more than a few minutes at a time. if I make the videos 10 minutes long, then I'm gonna need the same file for 2 different scenes, and I don't want to do that. I'd like to have the files that I need for each scene in their own separate folders, and no risk of me accidentally deleting data that I don't want to get rid of, for example. All right. Let's see. Are we done on that? Okay. Yeah. Looks actually. I think that's it on this part. All right. If I hit the menu button twice now, there's another set of, you can see that other tab there, right there on the top. There's a. So if I hit it the first time, it's the left tab. If I hit it the second time, it's the right tab. Now you can set the date time, turn on or off the beep sound when you're hitting buttons. It'll make the beep sounds. Or if you don't want them on, like I have it set right now, if you want your interface to be my son is calling. Hang on. All right. Hopefully I didn't get interrupted. My son was calling right now. So. All right, language, time zone. Yeah, you can set your times, and sometimes I do have to come back in here and fix that, because sometimes it seems to revert back to its default settings of kilometers per hour, or as Americans like to call it, kilometers. And some of the other default settings, like the beep sound turned on and crap like that. And so sometimes I do have to come in here and also change the time zone as well while I'm at it. Okay, GPS turned on. The position information on here is not useful as far as like looking it up on Google. Just a regular lat-long coordinate, but it does have like a sector thing, whatever, that works with certain types of programs, I guess, that can detect the location, on that to an extent. And it's fairly accurate, but it's not intelligible for me when I'm trying to look it up on Google or something. Car number, you'll see my truck number in the bottom of the screen there. It should be L46 or L4613 is my truck number, by the way, in case you're wondering. Screensaver, I don't use that. Frequency, it's either 50 or 60 cycles per second. And format, that would be format the SD card. Default settings, I can revert everything back to the default setting. And then version, I think that's the firmware version. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, while it is recording, I can also, I think it's this button here if I remember correctly, I can jump between the front and the side cameras. And one of the pros about this setup here on these cameras is that when they are in use, I'll get a picture-in-picture display on here. If they're all 3 hooked up and recording, I'll see both of the side cameras recording right here on the left side, while the front camera is also recording. Also, this camera has 2 SD card slots. Has the top one right here for the front camera view, and there's another one down here at the bottom that is for the rear cameras. And now I tend to use 64 gig cards in my cameras because well, I mean, they can accommodate 128, which would be even better, but I tend to run into problems with my Windows platform on my tablet not recognizing the entirety of the data on there. Usually it only shows me like 50 or so gigabytes, and then the rest is like hidden, or they won't view it even though it's still there, and I have to use special software to retrieve it otherwise. So I just go ahead and work with 64 gig file cards. I also have spares. Even with this, I have a process here. So as you see here, these cases here, if it opens up, I kind of talked about this in a recent video. So it opens up like that. Okay, if I have it like that, and I'm looking at it like this, and I see the bottom of the card like that, then I know that these 2 cards are empty. That means they're ready to throw into the cameras as soon as I get through recording other footage, because maybe I don't get a chance to get to the footage right away. So yeah, and now the front camera here with the 64 gig card can hold about 10 to 10 plus hours, I would say, of data. This guy here, the Garmin 45, can hold about, I think about 14 or so hours of data. So that's really helpful there. I can go an entire shift practically and not worry at all about that SD card. Problem is sometimes I don't get to getting the footage off of it right away. So sometimes you're going to find that I have video footage that does not have that camera view in use, and then others where it is in use. And then this one here, much like with that one on the, well, actually this one, because it always records 2 cameras at a time for the most part, if I had the 4th camera hooked up. Now it does have a front camera that I had mounted right here. All right, so this is what the front camera looks like for the VSYSTO system. I just sit it right here on my dash. It has its own adhesive double-sided tape thing, padded tape thing, whatever you want to call it, on it. But so I pulled it off because I'm not really using it. I had my other camera mounted in a way where it just got in the way of that camera anyway, and I can't record the side views if this one is recording. So it's kind of, and it actually quit working on me anyway. So I'm not really sure why, but it doesn't matter because I get better bang for my buck, better video experience by running the front camera off the Eagle Eye and then the sides off the VSYSTO. Let me get this put back away though. Alright, so something else here. Now, when you have 2 cameras recording on a 64 gig card, you're normally only going to get about 5 or so, maybe a tad more than 5 hours of data on the card before it starts overwriting the older data. So I always have like a spare for the rear just set aside just for that purpose, where maybe I'm not ready necessarily to pull the front camera card yet, but I want to pull the rears to make sure they don't get overwritten. I can do that kind of pretty quickly on the fly there. And just get right back on the road and continue about my day. And then when I'm done with my shift or something, then it's pretty likely that I'm not going to have data overwritten that I don't want getting overwritten in most cases. All right, so how do the side cameras differ? Why do I use 2 different camera systems for this one here? Actually, when the front camera there. All right, if this one has side cameras, these. Why am I not using them? Okay, the reason why I'm not using them is because they're temperamental, like I think I mentioned earlier, I can't remember. Because it's just thin, like 4-pin or whatever, 3-pin or whatever it is. 4-pin setup. It disconnects pretty easily, especially when it gets wet, I noticed. So, I looked for an alternative, and that's how I got the VSYSTO. Well, now the VSYSTO, there are pros and cons to it. The side cameras, for example, I love the way the side cameras mount. I also love how they have a wider view. I have a lot more flexibility in how I can mount the VSYSTO camera, the side cameras. Whereas with this, you see it's a flat setup there. So, okay, so if I were to mount this one, I would need something fairly flat. I would have to either put it out over here and, but I would get a different aspect ratio. I'd get a 9/16 aspect ratio instead of 16:9. Or I could put it up here where it's flat, and that works, but I found that there are certain disadvantages to it. When I had my Peterbilt, I had it mounted down here. But the Peterbilt, the rear view mirror it's a different setup down here, so I could mount it more flat and more parallel with the ground from underneath on the Peterbilt, but I cannot do it here on this Freightliner. So for me to mount it on here on the Freightliner, see, it's at an angle, and it'll show up on the video feed as at a weird angle too, and it's not so great for the viewing experience, I think. So This is where the VSYSTO V7 side cameras can really be a nice feature. Let me come outside here and I'll show you what the VSYSTO's cameras look like, the side cameras look like. By the way, before I do that though, how do I get this from out there to over here? Okay, there's a 40-foot, no, a 28-foot, I think, extension cable that comes with this. You know, it's plenty of a lot of cable, and I only really need about no more than 6 feet, really. But all I have to do is just run it right through the door jamb. You don't even have to cut any holes or anything. You just run it right in between the gap in the front of the door and the A-pillar. Bring it up through the A-pillar, the panel here, and then run it across over by the fog outlets and right up. That's it. Real easy to install. Pretty much the same thing with my other setup here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the side cameras for the VSYSTO now. Alright, so this will be the VSYSTO's side camera setup. You can see it's larger. It's definitely a larger setup. However, there are a couple of nice little features about this. One, now see, I can mount it wherever I want to, and you're like, how's that mount to the side of the truck? Alright, so all I'm doing on that is using 2 pieces of Gorilla mounting tape. That's it. It's not going to do any damage to the paint. I can pull this, I can pry this right off if I need to. And if I need to switch trucks or anything, go to a loaner. Alright, I had another phone call that came in. I accidentally answered it and then hung up, but he's going to probably call back. Anyway, also the camera, I can rotate it inside there however I want it, so it aligns just perfectly with the ground. I have 5 screws there. The screws do not mount it to the door. They only mount it because I got the base that mounts to the door, and then the 5 screws just mount the housing right here to that. Now, I was having problems, you might have seen even in my recent videos, where the camera would sometimes tilt at weird angles at times. And I fixed that by just, again, another piece of Gorilla mounting tape. I'm only using one side of it too. The little cup thing that the camera sits in, all I did was put a piece of tape on there, stuck it to that to make it so it would bind up more against the side of the housing here. Rotated it however I needed it, and then I put the housing back on and tightened the screws down. That was it. Alright, so you see here exactly what I'm talking about. The wire just goes right in between the door and the jamb. Hang on. I should have went do not disturb mode because I keep getting phone calls and it's starting to piss me off. Alright, so as you see here, it comes up here. Here's where the extension cable hooks up. And it's actually got a much more robust connection here. This is what you call an aircraft grade connection here. It works great. And now you have a yellow wire here as well. I don't use the yellow wire personally. That is actually designed to splice into the turn signal circuit of the vehicle. I don't want to do that though, because what the idea on this VSYSTO system is, normally it's the front and rear cameras that record because it was intended more for RVs. But now if you have that yellow wire hooked up, if you hit your left turn signal, that view will switch to your left camera. It'll record the left and right cameras, but it'll change the view to whichever camera is actually the turn signal is activated for. Alternatively, I also have a remote right there. I can mount it wherever I want to. It's just a wireless remote. You see I got a red and blue. So I'm going to hit now normally if I have all 3 of them hooked up, if I have the front hooked up, if I were to hit the red button right now, it would actually switch from the left view to the front view. And then the blue button here would switch between the right camera and the rear camera if all of them were hooked up. Right now it's just the left and right though. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the red button, the left one, and you're going to see that it's going to switch. So actually staying on the left camera. Yeah, it's staying on the left. I'm going to now hit the blue button there, the right one. And you'll see it switches to the side camera. So, you know, especially with the amount of nighttime driving that I do, and I don't want all these damn different displays, you know, lighting up my my cockpit area, I guess I would call it, when I'm trying to drive. I was a little bit not so sure I wanted to deal with this this monitor right here, but I found there was like a little nice blessing in disguise there. And first time I was trying to wherever that TA truck stop is in Ohio, where I think it's I-75 and I-71 or something along that meetup, or I don't even remember, I-70 and I don't remember that name of that town there, but it's anyway. I was parked in that TA there, and when I was leaving, I had to turn to the blind side to leave to get to the exit out of my spot, and I ended up turning setting this camera view up right here, and on my way out, instead of having to look out through the mirror or even rotate the mirror to see if I was clear of the guy on my who's parked on my blind side, all I had to do was just look at that monitor right there, and I could see exactly when my trailer was clear of the other guy. I don't quite have the depth perception out of this one that I can get out of the flat mirror itself, but it does a good enough job. Like, I wouldn't try to do blindside backings where I'm trying to get depth out of that view, but it sure does help a lot with at least get an idea of where I'm at in relation to something, and maybe even the angle as well. Because when you do blindside backings, if you're rotating that flat mirror out, let me see. All right. So as I rotate it out, as the trailer rotates more and more out, it'll look like it might look like that when the trailer might be rotating like 45 to 60 degrees off track from your tractor, but it'll look something like that. So it's harder to perceive what the trailer should be doing as far as its rotation is concerned versus what it really is doing. And if you're really paying attention to the tandems, you have to watch that more so, and how the tandems are pointing in relation to something else, like that line there you see there, or something else that would give me a much better concept of how my trailer is off tracking from the tractor, and that is only based on my own experiences with back-end trailers. Okay, so that's kind of in a nutshell. I think that hopefully covers everything on here. I can say that. Okay, the other thing here with the rear cameras, this works pretty damn well at night, but again, the mounting issues as well as the temperamental issues where sometimes it's just not recording at all and I really need it to record 24/7. I'm a little on the apprehensive side about using it. The VSYSTO, since I got it hooked up several months ago, never had one problem with any of the side cameras, never. The only issue I have with it is at night. If there isn't enough other light coming in, because it has these infrared lights on it. Let me show you that. I forgot to mention that. It's not nighttime hours, so I can't really show you what it does like I can at night. Alright. But right here you can see there's like these four lights on there. Those are the infrared lights. At night, if it's not getting enough of its own, enough natural light for it to see what it wants to see, you'll actually see like 4 little red lights light up on there. It's not very bright, but it's definitely noticeable. Even if you're walking by or driving by, you'll probably see it lighting up. If it starts getting its own, if it gets enough light to work with, those lights will turn off. And it does affect how the quality of the camera view looks. Actually, most of my nighttime videos now, I don't know what's been going on here with whatever happened with this left side one. I wish would happen to the right side one, because I think something went wrong with the left side camera here. Because the left side camera used to do the same thing as the right, where it's it would shine too, it would light up too brightly to where the camera can only pick up it just looks like you're in fog or something, I guess would be another way to describe it. Yeah, if you watch any of my nighttime videos, look at the passenger side camera view and look how it looks. It looks all weird, and it's hard to see what exactly you're even looking at through it. That's what I'm talking about. That's the infrared lights that I'm talking about. That'll light up on to try in an attempt to improve the lighting conditions to work with, the night vision part of it, but doesn't work so well. I'm not a fan of it. But like I said, this camera over here on the driver's side, some reason, I don't know, a few months ago, it decided to quit lighting up so well like the right side one does, and now at night, even in darker conditions, this one I think works really well. It's like perfect. I don't want it to do anything else other than what it's doing on the left side. I wish the right side would do exactly the same. If I knew what actually caused that to happen, I would maybe even consider manipulating that one so it would stop shining so damn bright. All right, this has an interface too. It's a little bit more simple, but I'm not going to cover that. This is going to be a long enough video anyway, so and this kind of should be enough to kind of cover the basics on what I'm running, where I got it from, why I'm running it, why I'm running this kind of a setup, not just one single system or whatever. All right, so hope that covers everything for you guys. If you have other questions about this setup or anything like that, so forgot to show you. For mounting options, right here, Gorilla mounting tape. You can buy this stuff at virtually any truck stop you go to. I can find it at any Love's, any Petro, any Pilot, Flying J, whatever. No matter which one of those truck stops, they all carry this stuff, from what I've found. Just go over to the trucker section. Usually like if you're at Love's or something over, near where the diesel desk and the showers are all at. It's usually over there somewhere. Just buy a roll of this. Works phenomenal. I'm woodworking. I'm not a fan of Gorilla Glue. My past experience of doing woodwork, which I'm not that good at, but I've used Gorilla wood glue in the past, and I don't like it. This works great. Like I told you, even in strong winds, those cameras there on the side of my truck, 2 pieces of this is all that I'm using to mount that to the side of the door. That's it. Those have not budged even one bit, even in strong winds, like 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. No problem at all. It just sits there. It does a phenomenal job. All right, so yeah, work with that. Yeah, especially if you're like in a lease truck or a company truck, like I'm a lease operator here. But if you're a company driver and you want to run a camera setup, something like this stuff will really save your ass, because you can mount it and not worry about doing any alterations to the truck itself. And if you need to switch trucks at any point, it's fairly easy to get the equipment removed and doesn't do any damage to the truck either. Doesn't make any permanent alterations. It's a great option for you. All right. All right. Hopefully that covers everything. Again, yeah. Hope you got some good information here. If you have any other questions that maybe I forgot to cover in this, please ask them in the comment section. All right. We'll have a different video for you of the video editing process. In fact, I don't know. Maybe this that mobility delivery video, I might even just do a demo on. Because I can screen record how I actually do that process, or at least a bit of it. So yeah, we'll try that out, all right? I'll kind of do a couple of different videos on that. Perhaps one on how do I get the files over from my from the respective cameras to how what I do with them once they're on the tablet, on the hard drive in there or whatever, that process. And then I'll do another video on the video editing process. All right, so that way the videos aren't extremely long, or try to keep them as reasonable, as short as I can make them. And because actually the video editing video is probably going to be long enough on its own, even without showing how I get it from here to the tablet, or my process, how I organize the files as well, to where they're easier to to work with. All right. So that'll be another one I'll be working on. Yeah, but I do still have the vlogs to also post, so I've got to keep that in mind. So you may or may not see these videos in a super timely manner. It might take a few days or something, or I don't know. It might might within today, for all we know, might even have it on there. All right. So, all right, you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. And again, any comments, questions, whatever you might have, any concerns, go ahead and put them in the comments section, and we'll try to get any of them answered for you. Okay. All right. Thanks for your time. We'll see you on the next one.